A village? No.
या कुन्देन्दु तुषारहारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रावृता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेतपद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युतशङ्करप्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेषजाड्यापहा। शुक्लां ब्रह्मविचारसारपरमा आद्यां जगद्व्यापिनीं वीणा पुस्तकधारिणीम् अभयदा जाड्यान्धकारापहा। हस्ते स्फाटिकमालिकां विदधतीं पद्मासने संस्थितां वन्दे तां परमेश्वरीं भगवतीं बुद्धिप्रदां शारदाम्।
Incredible, isn't it? So, good afternoon, everyone. It is a matter of great pleasure for me, Bushra Sefi, student of B.Ed first year at VARUN Dhaka Institute of Technology, to welcome you all in the International e-Seminar or webinar on sports and higher education and the roadmap of sustainable development goals, organized by VARUN Dhaka Institute of Technology. So, in this seminar, I thanks to our audience for joining us online from all parts of India and around the world. I feel extremely glad to welcome you all in this awaited seminar, and it gives me immense pleasure to be standing in front of you all. Varun Dhaka Institute of Technology, which is affiliated with Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University, New Delhi, and is recognized by the National Council for Teacher Education, NCTE, for its Bachelor of Education program in 1999. The college has a dedicated management team, devoted teachers, and committed non-teaching staff. VDIT, endowed with a progressive, futuristic outlook, aims for continual growth in the quality of all academic activities with a sense of commitment to fully meet the expectation of the student, parents, and society at large. The core values adopted by the institution are integrity, excellence, accountability, transparency, and empathy. I'm delighted to announce that nearly 1,000 participants have registered for this international webinar from various parts of India and international countries. Without taking much time, I would like to invite our respected Shri Jai Kishan Sir, ex-MLA and chairman of VDIT. He is known for his remarkable achievements and contribution for society's welfare. His unwavering support and involvement have been crucial to our organization. Please join me in welcoming our chairman, Shri Jai Kishan Sir.
नमस्कार, मैं जय किशन फॉर्मर एमएलए भी हूँ और जो आईपी यूनिवर्सिटी का बीएड का हमारा कॉलेज है वीडीआईटी के नाम से वीडी इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी जो कृष्ण बिहार सेक्टर 20 लोनी के साथ चल रहा है और 13 को मई को जो सेमिनार हमारे कॉलेज की प्रिंसिपल उमा सिन्हा, एसके मिश्रा जी, प्रिंस बाबू, ज्योत्सना आशा लता, मेरा बेटा वरुण जो डिप्टी चेयरमैन है वरुण ढाका, जिसके नाम से वीडीआईटी कॉलेज है, मेरी बिटिया वर्णा ढाका जो इस कॉलेज में संचालन में मदद करती है। पहली बार ये सेमिनार हमारे कॉलेज में हो रहा है। मैं इन सब इस सेमिनार को करने में जो इन्होंने योजनाएं बनाई हैं, इसकी तैयारियां की हैं, पहले तो मैं अपने सारे स्टाफ का शुक्रिया अदा करता हूं, आभार व्यक्त करता हूं सब अधिकारियों का और अपने बेटे वरुण का, अपनी बेटी वर्णा का भी। इसके अलावा जो लोग देश विदेश से इस सेमिनार में शामिल हो रहे हैं, उन सबका स्वागत करता हूं, उन सबका अभिनंदन करता हूं, उनका आभार व्यक्त करता हूं कि वो इस कॉलेज के सेमिनार में अपनी हिस्सेदारी करके और जो उनके वक्तव्य है, जो उनके विचार सेमिनार में आएंगे, यूनिवर्सिटी के काम आएंगे, हमारे बच्चों को शिक्षा मिलेगी, बढ़ोतरी मिलेगी, हमारी जो मैनेजमेंट है, हमारे जो अधिकारी हैं, उनको इससे सीख मिलेगी और जो शिक्षा स्तर है वो ऊंचा उठेगा। मैं इसी तरीके से भारत सरकार से भी और दिल्ली सरकार से भी
Thank you, Sri Jaikishan sir, for your exceptional contribution and for creating an environment where ideas thrive and collaboration flourish. Your leadership has made a significant difference, and we are truly thankful for your invaluable role in this event. Let's now welcome our principal ma'am, who is known among all of us for her wisdom and knowledge. It is with great honor and privilege that I would like to invite our honorable and dignified principal ma'am, Dr. Uma Sinha, principal of VARUN DHAKA Institute of Technology. Dr. Uma Sinha holds PhD in Life Science, MPhil in Biochemistry, MEd, and UGC NET in Education. She has 22 years of teaching experience. She has received many international honors for outstanding support, excellence in education, social welfare, and contribution for education, fraternity, and society. Outstanding work and achievements. She has received Global Youth Icon Award 2022. Maulana Abdul Kalam Azad Award in 2022, Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan Global Educator Award in 2022, and Chanakya Award in 2023, and Global Women Icon Awards in 2023 from International Council for Education, Research and Training, New Delhi, and Global Award in 2022 from AKS Education Awards. To her credit, she has participated in 850 national and international conferences, which includes 205 international and 550 national level conferences and seminars, and published 10 B.Ed ISBN books. By now, she has published about 36 research papers and articles in various peer-reviewed journals and books. So without any further ado, I would like Uma ma'am to share with us few words of wisdom.
Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon to everyone present here, to our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome. I, Dr. Uma Sinha, Principal of VDIT, welcome you all to the one-day international e-seminar on sports and higher education and the roadmap of sustainable development goals. Firstly, I would like to thank our guest speaker, Dr. Rakesh Tomar and Dr. Amit Ahuja, for taking their precious time out for this event. Secondly, I would want to thank my audience for being present here today. I am very happy to announce that nearly 1,000 participants registered for this seminar from all parts of the India and from international countries. Before we start the conference, I would like to express my gratitude toward you all who sincerely contributed to this event in order to make it a success. This wouldn't have been possible without the support of each and everyone present here. Today's seminar is based on the theme Sustainable Development Goals. As we know that sustainable development in higher education will enable the student to develop a personal critique of society and produce graduates who are ideologically aware and socially critical. The primary objective of the higher education sector is to build human resources that contribute to social and economical, we can say that, developments of the country. The primary objective of the higher education sector is to build the human resources that will contribute to social, scientific, and economic developments of the country. As we know that sport is also a very important enabler of the sustainable development. We recognize the growing contribution of the sport to the realization of development and peace in its promotion of tolerance and respect, and contributions it makes to the empowerment of the women and of the young people, individuals and communities, as well as the health, education, and social inclusion objectives. In today's conference, our honorable guest would like to shift their focus to our youth. In order to help our nation achieve an overall development of the sector of the society, it becomes very much important to tap the energy of our youth in the right way. Clearly, our youth is the future face of our country, and they have an infinite store of the energy with them, in addition to great ideas. Therefore, if they are provided with the right platform and the abundant opportunities, they are likely to shine like a star. Now, I would like to invite our honorable guest on the stage and would request them to share their knowledge with us today. Thank you all and everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Dr. Uma Sinha ma'am, for your meaningful and inspiring words. Thank you for your leadership and dedication to making a positive impact on the lives of students and the field of education as a whole, and always keeping us so motivated. Now, let me give you a quick overview of instructions for the participants. The webinar duration will be 2 hours. Please follow the digital ethics and keep your mics off. Don't write unnecessary messages in the chat box. There are total 2 sessions in today's program. If any questions from honorable resource person, you could write it in the chat box. The topic of our international e-seminar is sports and higher education and the roadmap of sustainable development goals under G20 presidency. Before we begin, let me give you a quick introduction to the G20, a group of 20 countries that represent around 80% of the world's economy. They work together to promote global economic growth, international trade, and financial stability. As the current G20 presidency, sustainable development is our top priority. We are committed to implementing policies that promote economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental sustainability in the lines with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals identified by the United Nations. To achieve sustainable development goals, we must prioritize investment in human capital, infrastructure, and sustainable energy. We must work together, reducing inequality and ensuring access to services such as healthcare, education, and clean water. We understand our responsibility to lead by example and hold ourselves accountable for tangible progress towards sustainable development goals, collaborating with other nations, international organizations, and civil society is crucial in driving global progress towards sustainable development. As we all know, sports have a significant impact on society, and we are here to explore how it can contribute to sustainable development. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my great pleasure to introduce our first resource person, Dr. Rakesh Tomar sir, who has graciously accepted our invitation to join us today. On the behalf of our college, I sincerely thank Dr. Tomar for being busy schedule and grace his occasion from presence. It's indeed a great honor for our college to have welcomed such prominent speakers known for their great contribution to their respective. I am sure we will greatly benefit from your opinion and findings today. Dr. Rakesh Tomar is a highly esteemed consultant in sports nutrition. He has done his PhD in physical education from Lakshmi Bai National Institute of Physical Education, Gwalior. He had also completed more than 12 certificate courses in different academic fields. He is a peer reviewer, web of science journals, Clarivate Analytics, Philadelphia, USA, and honorary editor-chief in the Journal of Human Movement and Sports Science. Dr. Tomar have 25 years of teaching and research experience, out of which 17 in abroad. Dr. Tomar's contribution to the field have been recognized with numerous awards. He received award for outstanding service at King Fahad University of Petroleum and Minerals, Saudi. Awarded for passion and devotion by 7th Asian Conference on Kinesiology in Incheon, Korea. Awarded Certificate of Excellence for outstanding presentation by Western Society for Kinesiology and Wellness Conferences, Reno. He awarded Tremendous Sports, Doha, Qatar, and recipient of National and Award in Delhi, India. He is editor board member of reviewer at 57 international journals. He is a board member of Asian Society of Kinesiology and Korea. And numerous organization committees, association committees. Dr. Tomar will share topic with us. That is realizing the UN Sustainable Development Physical Education and Sports. As we all know, the UN Sustainable Development Goals are a set of goals to more play. So this is how physical education and sport can a vital role in achieving these goals. So without further ado, let us all give a warm welcome to Dr. Mercer and to his valuable insights. Dr. Mercer, please share with us valuable insights on the topic. Sir, your mic is off. Please turn on your mic, please.
Sorry.
Yes.
Very sorry. Thank you so much. And first of all, a very warm good afternoon to everyone who is on board here. And I would like to congratulate the VARUN Institute of Technology for organizing this wonderful event. And I also congratulate, in particular, the principal of the institute, Dr. Uma Sinha, who has been gracious enough to invite me, and giving me an opportunity to share my views, on this platform about sports and how sports can help to realize the United Nations Sustainable Goal. So without taking much more time, let me quickly share my screen with you. Can you please allow me to share my screen, the host? If you can give me permission to...
Ma'am, could you please allow me?
No, I have not been allowed. You are not allowed to share your screen. This is what I see.
Sunil sir? Wait, sir. Wait. Hello, Sunil sir? Wait, sir, I'm reviewing.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
Got it, sir?
Yes. I will give me a moment. Okay, please let me know if my screen is visible.
Sir, it's
Yes, sir,
visible.
sir.
Visible.
Okay. And during the course of presentation, please let me know if my screens, my slides are moving, because sometimes, I cannot see what's happening. That's a limitation of Google Meet, So please let me know if my slides are not moving so that I can, adjust again. Okay, thank you so much. And once again, before I start, once again, I would like to, give my few, words of compliment to the principal of the institute, who is very dynamic, and even she's doing a great job, in uplifting education, and she has been very active at various platforms, to guide the youth, of the in higher education. Thank you so much, Dr. Uma Sinha, for a wonderful work you are doing. And I should not forget also to compliment and thanks the chairman of the institute, Mr. Jay Kishanji, who has been, in the force behind, really the progress for the institute. So the topic for my presentation is realizing United Nations Sustainable Development Goals through physical education and sports. And the most important thing for us, anything what we do, anything what we strive to do, is the implementation. So we may hear many things, we preach many things, we try to do many things, we try to follow many things, but the most important thing is how much you implement it. So implementation is very, very important. Then only we can realize and we can achieve, the goals set by us. So this is the outline of my presentation. I will be talking on sustainable development goals and sports. Then how sports can act as an enabler, and what are the indicators, for this. what can we do and what has been done so far to achieve these goals through sports. And since I am living and working in most of my career, in Saudi Arabia, so I will be like focusing on what has been done and what Saudi Arabia will be doing, in next couple of years to realize these goals through the sports. Okay, and what is the status of physical education in Saudi Arabia? So this will help, us to understand things in a better way and implement many things there, in India also. So these are the 17 SDGs, which is very well known. I think everyone who is aware about SDGs, they must be knowing these 17 goals. Of course, I will not be talking about all these 17, SDGs. I will be focusing only on 4 of SDG, like first is a good health and well-being, then quality education, gender equality, and decent work and economic growth. So my focus will be on how we can achieve these 4 sustainable development goals with the help of sports and physical education. So before I take up these goals one by one, so let me tell you what is happening in Saudi Arabia currently, and if this is the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 2030, the same way Saudi also have set up a vision of 2030. And if you look at the vision of 2030, their target is to have at least 40% of its population exercising at least once a week, and which is really a very ambitious goal. So if 40% of the population will exercise once in a week, this will be a very, a great achievement, to make people healthy and physically active. So this is a very ambitious goal, and I must say, that there are a lot of things happening, and I'm personally very active, in physical exercises. I do a lot of running, Iron marathons, half marathons, full marathons. So I can see that.
Excuse me, sir. Your slide is not moving, sir.
My slide is not moving?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me share my screen, because when you share the window, sometime, the slide, let me share my entire screen. So like this was my outline for the lecture, which I just talked about. I will not repeat again. I will just quickly glance through these slides. So these were the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, okay, which I was talking about. And this is a slide which I am currently at. Okay, now my slides are moving.
Yes, sir, now moving, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So I was talking here that Saudi Arabia has set a very ambitious target of having 40% of its population exercising at least once a week by the end of 2030. And a lot of things has been happening since then in last 2 years, I'm saying, which I will be talking about, in coming slides. And this is in terms of physical education, they have to give like fulfilling life, these are the 3 aspects they are focusing, at both at the high school levels and at the university levels. And their focus is on physical condition, the focus is on psychological comfort and social well-being. So this is again, like they're trying to make overall development of the individual, in both school level and also at the higher education level. And this is if you look at the investments which is coming to the country, especially to promote physical activity and sports, over next 5 years, $1.8 billion will be invested, and they are investing around $650 million to support 170 clubs in Saudi Arabia. And I think those people who are here who love football or soccer, they must be aware about, recently Saudi Arabia has, they have a deal with Ronaldo, Cristiano, and we are hearing that very soon Lionel Messi also will be joining one of the clubs. And so, I mean, they're spending a lot of money, to to make people, to bring these big stars in the country, and to like make people aware about sports and encourage them to take part in the sports. And with this, they are hoping to increase at least 23% in mass participation, in terms of physical activity, which is a very huge, we can say a target. So these are the 4 sustainable goals which I will be talking about: good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, decent work, and economic growth, and how physical education and sports can achieve, with this we can achieve these goals. Of course, all the 17 goals can be achieved, with physical education and sports, but with the limitation of time, I'll be focusing about only these 4, and which I feel, is appropriate, for the forum which is on the platform, on this online platform, right? So the first one is a good health and well-being. So here, the sports and Olympics in particular is one of the most important factor in promoting well-being, right? So, and we know that when the Olympics comes, or when any other big events comes, we as a society are generally, like motivated towards taking up exercise, maybe for a short period of time. At least there is awareness, there is a mass campaign, and these things are really helpful. And the pictures which you are seeing on your screen, they are like a realistic picture is what's happened in the marathons, when people run in the marathon. So this is how the people, if they don't have anyone to take care about the kid, this is how they run the marathons with the strollers, in the kids in the strollers. And these are the true pictures, and this shows how much commitment they have towards the physical activity and exercise. And this is really very motivating. So inactivity is the 4th leading risk factor for the global mortality. And we have seen in last 2-3 years during the pandemic, in the COVID-19 times, the most people who are affected by this COVID-19 virus is those who are inactive, those who are suffering from comorbidity, like for example diabetes, high blood pressure, heart diseases, and all these things, high cholesterol. All these things are because of the inactivity. So inactivity was one of the big reasons why so many people died during this COVID-19 pandemic. And we have seen that many people during this phase, they got aware about this physical activity, and and I'll give you some more examples of this in coming slides. How not only society but the people in the high stakeholders are also moving towards. And this is the reason why, again, this in Saudi Arabia 2030 vision is focusing more on healthy lifestyles. And this is the importance of the healthy lifestyle, which is also prioritized in the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. So participating in physical education and sports can motivate people to be more active, contributing to the reduction of premature mortality from non-communicable diseases and associated healthcare cost. And during this COVID-19, again, I'm reiterating, it's not only non-communicable diseases, but physical activity also help, in fighting, against the communicable diseases. And COVID-19 is one of the communicable disease, right? So it's very important. So how can we assess it? And what are the indicators? How will you assess, the good health and well-being, and what are the indicators of this? I'm talking in terms of, especially, in sports and physical education. So the first is, how many % of population is sufficiently physically active? Maybe in your institute, in your city, in your country, in your area, wherever you are, trying to assess these indicators. How many % of population who participate with some regularity in sports, fitness, and active recreation? And the number of national sports bodies using sports to communicate the health messaging, this is again very important. So like, for example, if we talk about recently, let's say the BCCI or the IPL, so are they promoting, are they communicating, through their actions about health or not? That is also very important. Unfortunately, many are not doing that in real sense. Then number of national sports bodies investing in the mental health and well-being initiatives. That's also important. So these sports bodies, like for example, what you see, all the sports federations, whether it's athletic federation or wrestling federations or cricket or whatever it is, other than playing a professional sports, other than promoting the professional sports or making a team and getting a medal, are they doing enough in promoting mental health and well-being initiatives? That is very important. You see, when you focus on a professional sports or when you focus on winning a medal at Olympics or Asian Games or other levels, you are focusing on very small number, right? Just very elite. But the most important thing is the mass. The medal will be won by few people, but the health, the well-being initiatives are very important. So these national sports bodies should also invest in these aspects, not only just focusing on the medals and other things. So what can we do and what has been done so far? So these were the indicators. So if these let me use a pointer. So if the number here is less, it means we are not doing enough to promote, we can say, or not doing enough to realize this sustainable goal of United Nations. So these numbers should increase here. And as far as my knowledge concerned, this number is quite less here. So what can we do and what has been done so far? So first thing is of course you have to do activity or exercise, but one should know what is exercise, right? So when we say you should exercise, so exercise does not mean that you have to do a particular set of routine or you have to do some structured activity. Exercise can be anything, and anything can be means like movement. So when you make a movement of your body, even if you're sitting and you try to turn your neck up and down, right or left or up and down, that also is a movement, right? And any movement is exercise. So any type of a sports you play, that is exercise. Yoga, in yoga also there are movements, right? So this is also a type of exercise, or anything else which makes your body move. So the movement is the key. And when you do exercise, of course, exercise will take you from illness to the wellness, right? So how much exercise one should do? That is again a very important question. So any person who's trying to realize his health and well-being through exercise, he should do two forms of activity. The first is aerobic exercises, and second is the resistance training. When I say aerobic means anything you do without break. Like for example, you do jogging, you do cycling, you do running, you do swimming, you do biking. Biking means cycling again, So any form of activity, or you play football, you play basketball, or any other game in which you do exercise without break. Okay, these all are called as aerobic activity, or we can say cardio in a very general terms. You go to the gym and you do the cardio, that is called as a cardio. So this is one aspect which is very important, which should be done around at least 3 times in a week on alternate basis. Okay, and the second one is resistance training. When we say resistance training, means lifting weight. So you go to the gym and you try to lift some weight, that is called as a weight training also. Okay, so resistance training can be done in the gym using the weight, or you can use your own body weight also to do the training. You don't have to go to the gym. Some of you are student, or we are some of your professors. So you have books in your study room which are maybe 5 to 6 or 7 kg weight. You can take 2 books in your hands and you can use those books as a dumbbell. So while sitting on a chair, if you are, say, for example, writing a research paper and you are spending 3-4 hours on a table, right? So every 30 minutes or 1 hour, you can take a break, take your books in your hand, both hands, and use it as a dumbbell. These are very just simple things which you can do, just to keep your body, more active. Okay. And how much should be the activity? If you look at the recommendations, these are recent recommendations given during the COVID-19 from the WHO. Everyone should be involved. This is for the adults. Every adult should be involved in at least 150 to 300 minutes of moderate activity in a week. So if you do less than that, you are not getting really benefit on your health. Of course, more than 300 meters is also welcome. Now, in terms of promoting health, here I would like to quote, what IOC thinks, and this has been said during, this pandemic time, and which assumes very much significance. So, the International Olympic Committee president, he has urged all governments to include sports in their plans to fight with coronavirus. Like, this is what he has said during the pandemic, that once this pandemic, is over means the restrictions are lifted. So all the governments should include sports in their plans. So, which is a very bold statement, right? And it makes it's a very heavyweight statement. So he made the comments after the IOC and the WHO. So IOC is a premier body in sports, and we all know about that. And WHO is a premier body in health, right? So they both signed an agreement to work together to promote health through sports and physical activity. So this is how the world has been changing. This is how the focus has been shifting, and the health is important, and to promote health, to make people more healthy, sports and physical activity are promoted at various levels, on education platform. So he further said that in the current crisis, this is what he said in the pandemic time, that we all have seen how important sports and physical activity are of physical and mental health. And he said sports can save lives. So don't take sports as just, okay, something just for recreation. It's very important, very significant. And sport does not mean that you have to participate in Olympics. Sports does not mean that you have to be in your school or college team. And sport does not mean that you have to win, medals for your schools or colleges. It does not. Sports means anything, any activity. It's like a structured game. You can structure exercise, you can say, playing with some rules and regulations. You can have sports, can be organized sports, it can be traditional sports, it can be the local sports, or anything. So the sports can save lives, and it is very important again, right? So even the WHO, they are very keen on sports, and as I said, these two bodies, IOC and WHO, they intend to work together to promote grassroots and community sports programs. That is very important. So here, when I'm talking about sports, I'm not talking about the Olympic sports. That's not the focus. When we talk about Olympics or Asian Games, or these are only for few, very elite, maybe very 1 to 2% of the population. So our focus is on the at the grassroots level, to promote sports or physical activity at the grassroots levels and community sports, because that have a further reach within the general public. So we have to focus on each one, particularly among the girls, among the older people, and people living with disabilities who may find it harder to keep active and healthy. So if you look at the estimates, globally, which is given by WHO, 1 in 4 adult is not active enough. Imagine the percentage, 1 in 4 adult is not active enough, and more than 80% of the world's adolescent 80% of the world's adolescent population is insufficiently physically active. How many of you, if there anyone here, I'm not talking about the students, but the staff or the parent here, at this forum, how many of you, insist or encourage your kids to do physical activity on a daily basis? Very, very few. Very few. So we must, make this a habit, in our family. So make your family physically active. Don't make yourself only active. As a head of the family, it is your responsibility, or as a member of family. If you are a kid here, you are a children, it's your responsibility to make your parent also active. So as a family member, it's my responsibility to make my family physically active. So this is very, very important. Now, in Saudi Arabia, Saudi Sports for All Federation, they have started, this program, which is on your screen, Step Together program. And this is very much successful, and they are organizing a lot of physical activity throughout the year. And I am the one of the, person who is very active in all of the activities. And this has been gaining momentum year by year. And till now, they have organized, a lot of, whether it is a sports or whether it is a 5K runs. And whenever they organize event, it is organized. They never organize the event like for the elites. It is always for the family. Even even for the disabled population, and for the old population. So the focus is on not to bring, like for example, me. I run professional marathons. The focus is not bringing me to this program. The focus is bringing my family to these programs. So if I come to run any marathon, so the program is such that I will bring my family there. So they make the program in such way so that the whole family take part in these activities. And these are some of the examples, like how many people have participated, in these programs till now. Of course, the numbers have grown more than what I'm showing here. Now, the next one is quality education. This is the next sustainable development goal of United Nations. Okay. So sports, physical education and physical activity are fundamental rights for all. And as such, it constitutes important component of equitable and quality education. So physical education and sports are, integral part of any quality education program, and every student, whether he is in a school settings or in higher education, they have to do physical activity is their fundamental right, and we all must provide them this opportunity without any fail. So physical literacy provides the basis for lifelong participation in physical activity and the associated health benefits, making it essential for young people's development and an important learning outcome across education settings. High quality physical education, sports values education, skill development, physical activity and sports learning environments can also contribute to broader education outcomes. So how can we assess it, and what are the indicators? The first one is, the how many percent of schools reporting full or partial implementation of quality physical education guidelines. Okay, like these QP guidelines can be different according to the country, according to the state, according to the universities. Okay, so if there are the guidelines, how many of the schools or the institutions are following this, then how many percent of schools reporting full or partial implementation of the sports and physical activity actions of a health promoting school. So this is how we can assess it. And what are the indicators? Indicators are, again, the percent of schools where physical education is offered as a standalone subject, not as an optional or a part-time. So we have to see the numbers. So these are the numbers which will give us indication how much it has been followed, right? And how many percent of schools where sports is offered after the school time. So after the school time, when you have finished, are you offering after school activities? So this is also one of the indicators, right? And to add to your knowledge here, like where I'm working, here in King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals. So we have a compulsory physical education program for all the graduates. So if you are doing, your graduation in engineering or electrical or mechanical or civil, whatever it is, they have to take compulsory four semesters of physical education. And it's not, by the way, it's not a qualifying physical education. Their GPA, their grades, or we can say their marks are added in their transcripts in overall GPA. So it is not only mandatory, but they are supposed to get good grades so that their overall GPA goes high. So this is how physical education and physical activity, can be, promoted at higher education level. Then how many percent of schools reporting offering progressive learning experiences through physical education curriculum as per the QP guidelines? This is another indicator. How many percent of total education budget is allocated to physical education? Again, this is very important. And of course, if you look at many institutes, this they will fail in this indicator. Of course, the priority is on other things, but still, wherever it is possible, we must have a sufficient, budget, for physical education programs. Then, how many number of higher education institutions are offering training courses related to sports, physical education, and physical activity? That is again another indicator. And to add here, like if I talk about the VD Institute of Technology, the program offered now, like this webinar which is being hosted now, this is like one of the steps to promote physical activity, to promote sports, and to make you aware, the students of the institute and those who are coming from all over the country, how we can achieve the sustainable development goals through physical education activity. So this is like one step or one indicator, from your institute, and for which I, applaud, the management and the principal of the institute. So what can we do and what has been done so far? So again, this is what can we do is again a big, a thought. So what I think always is that we should promote the sports culture, in our education institutions. And the first and the foremost reason, to develop the sports culture. When I say sports culture, does not mean again that you have to build the teams in your institute and you have to take part, in competitive sports. That is something else. Okay. So when I'm talking is the reason is to make physically active citizens, right? So how can you do this, in your institutions or in your schools or colleges? That first you should have develop the sports culture. Then you should have a regional culture. So regional culture is very important. Until unless you follow a regional culture, you cannot develop a sports culture, right? So you have to see what games are being played traditionally at the local level. So those sports, those games should be included, in your program. And that's how you can attract, that's how you can bring more and more people to the physical activity and sports, right? So it's not only that you need to follow the Olympic sports, you should follow the local and regional culture. And why so? When you adopt the regional culture, like if you look at the India, so there are so many states, we have a diverse, diverse culture, right? Every state had its own culture. Even within the states, the local culture changes within 100 kilometers, 50 kilometers of distance, right? So we should try to adopt that regional culture, because that will bring a belongingness to the people, right? To the students. And when a student feels that, yes, this belongs to me, then he will be attracted and he will take part in those activities. So the belongingness is very important. Until unless you have a feeling of belongingness, you cannot develop a sports culture in higher education or in your institute. Again, I am reiterating again and again, sports culture does not mean that you should have a team or for the organized sports. It just can be unstructured activity. It can be unstructured any local games. Not necessarily when we use the word sports is used in general. Not necessarily sports means cricket or football. It can be anything. You can modify the rules. You can modify the games. So anything modify according to the requirement, according to the facilities you have, according to the manpower you have. We can modify these activities and for the benefit of the students. And then reach to each is another thing. So you should your program, whatever program you have in your institute, you should be able to reach each and every one of student. For example, if you select the team for football and you want to take part in inter-university competition, so you will be selecting only 11 or 15 players, right? So what about remaining 1,000, 2,000 students? Where will they go? So that is not important. So important is whatever program you offer, whatever activity you do, every student must be targeted. So this activity should be offered to each and every student. And when everyone is involved, then the culture develops. And this is how we can develop a sports culture in our universities. Then other than that, we should have like a sports heritage. So of course, when you take part in the teams, when you take part in organized sports, that is also important. That also motivates, the other people to, to the sport or to physical activity. So that is also important, equally important. So the sports heritage is very important. Sports legacy. So how you can transfer, the sports legacy, from one generation to the other generations. I believe, if I know maybe I'm sounding it more like, maybe over enthusiastic, but can we have the sports museums in higher education institutions or in the school level? Why not? When I say sports museum, does not mean that you should have a separate building. It is just like a one room or one place which you give a nomenclature. So where you keep your trophies, where you keep the pictures and photographs of your past students who excel in some sports, some activities, they win some medals. It's like a place, the same place maybe you are having in your institution, but just give a name to it. Give a name because the name makes a difference. So when you say there is a sports museum in your school or in your education, students will go there. Okay, there's a museum, so they will at least go once there, and that makes a big difference. We can have the sports exhibitions in our institutions again to develop this sports culture. So this is what we can do, as an administrators, as a teacher, and also as a student, in higher education. And we have to change again to bring this physical education activity, or we can say this culture. We have to change the approach of followers and doers. So as a major characteristics of a modernity in sports, the followers have gradually and massively outnumbered the doers. You see, how many of you follow IPL, for example, cricket? Many of you follow, right? But how many of you play? So you see, if you look at the soccer, the whole world follows the soccer, but does everyone play? No. So we have basically more followers and we have less doers. So we have to change this approach. We need more doers than the followers, and especially when I'm talking about sports in universities and higher education. You see, one does not have to play even 1 second of football in his life to have developed into a highly knowledgeable football fan. You see, if I ask you, many of you, if I ask you about Indian cricket teams, you can easily tell, okay, these 11 players are not good, or these 11 players are good, or we should have this player in the team, he should be out of the team, because you are such a highly knowledgeable fan, right? And you did not play cricket at all, but still you have the knowledge of the game. So that's something different. So we have to change this approach of from the followers to the doers, and mass participation and reach to each student is necessary to develop sports culture in universities. Sports, as I said, not necessarily means playing a specific sports. It may refer to any exercise or means of exercise. And if you look at the higher education in Saudi Arabia, especially, and in many universities, technical and non-technical physical education is mandatory for all students here. That's I'm talking about higher education. They have to undertake 4 semesters of physical education in orientation, freshman or sophomore programs. And the activities include courses in health education, physical fitness, various sports and activities. And there are also elective courses in various disciplines of physical education. And the courses are also offered for like weight control, how you can control your weight, and the special needs students who are not able to do physical activity. If someone has, say, heart disease or someone has asthma, what activities we can offer to them. And then this is what is offered, in education in Saudi Arabia. Now the next one is a gender equality. Let me move quickly because I think I have 10 more minutes, looks like so. Sports could act as a vehicle for gender equality and the empowerment of women. This is very important. I will give you here many examples how sports can help in achieving this goal of United Nations. Sports can be an important enabler of sustainable health for women also. Okay. So how can we assess it and what are the indicators? So assessment is how many % of females who are actively participating in sports, fitness, and active recreation. That will give us, the assessment part. And indicators are how many % of females insufficiently physically active. What is the difference between the % of male population and the % of female population who are sufficiently active? That is also important. So that can give an indication whether our programs, are, like meant for both genders, or they are just focusing on one gender. Then the difference between the % of male population and the % of female population who are inactive, and % of female employed in the sports and physical activity sector. That is again important. How many females are working in these sectors? I'm not talking about the players. I'm talking about, who are working in these sectors. Then how many % of funded sports bodies with a gender equality strategy or action plan with allocated budget? Then how many number of organizations receiving targeted public funding to deliver gender empowerment through sports programs, which includes national federations and also, this SDP stakeholders. What can we do, and what has been done so far for the women empowerment, through sports? If I'll give you here a very famous quote, and maybe some of you might be aware about this, that bicycling has done more to emancipate women than any one thing in the world. So this is how the sports, and this was, said by, one of the famous American women's activities, and long back, more than, 1 century. If you look at the last Olympic in Tokyo 2020, we have seen the increase in female participation compared to Rio 2016. So there's a more number of, female athletes participating in the Olympics. And if you look at the Beijing 22, in Olympics, in the Winter Olympics, we'll also see an increase in women's mixed events to reach a record of 45% female representation. This already been, these events have been finished. So this is an excellent step forward, and we have made the history to have almost equal numbers of women and men competing for the first time at the Olympic Games or Youth Olympic Games. So as well as another big step in the implementation of Olympic agenda, this is a great milestone for women's sport and for the Olympic movement as a whole. And this is what you see if I show you the IOC administration. If you look at the 2019 number, 33% of IOC members were women. So there is a great number of increase, in the representation of women in Olympic Indian International Olympic Committee. Okay, and here in Saudi Arabia, what has been done? A lot has been done again in last 2 years in women empowerment. And if the princess, Rima bin, Bandar Al Saud, one of the princes of the, here the ruling family. She was the ambassador to the United States, and the first female to hold the post has been nominated for the country's representation at the International Olympic Committee. And again, very important here, the 5 candidates, from the 5 candidates, 3 women and 2 men have been nominated for the membership by the IOC Executive Board. So in the IOC Executive Board, there are 3 women and 2 men. So again, a lot has been, done, for gender equality through sports. And in Saudi Arabia, by proposing 3 female candidates, the IOC demonstrates again its commitment to promoting gender equality within its leadership by implementing the governance-related recommendations of the Gender Equality Review Project, which set the target of having at least 30% of decision-making positions for women by 2020. Right? And Princess Rima has also served as a president of the Mass Participation Federation, which is the kingdom's principal body responsible for increasing sports participation by raising the opportunities for all members of the society. And we have, this is in the past, in 2020, we had the Women's Fitness Festival. So a lot has been done, through physical education sports to bring gender equality. And the last sustainable goal is, which on today's lecture, is decent work and economic growth. So the contribution of sports, physical education, and physical activity to economic growth, increased productivity and employment can be observed in different contexts, right? So the sports industry has been estimated to contribute up to 1% of global GDP. See, it's a very big number. 1% of the total GDP has been contributed through sports industries, and stimulating its development can contribute to further benefits. And we have seen, in India also, we have seen how the sports industry has been increasing jobs, and the employment prospects, and how the sports has been contributing in the economic growth of the country. And the cricket, especially the IPL, is one of the best example of that. How can we assess it, and what are the indicators? Again, the how many percent of contribution of sports, fitness, and active recreation to the GDP, that will give us an assessment of the economic growth. How many percent of the workforce within the sports, fitness, and recreational activities sectors? And indicators are the annual growth rate of sports sector per person employed in the sector. Then how many percent of youth in education, employment, or training in sports are involved? How many number of jobs in the sports and active leisure tourism as a proportion of tourism jobs? And how many percent of population who engage in volunteering to support physical activities. Then what can be done? What can we do, and what has been done so far? So contribution of the top 10 related sectors to the employment. If you look at, for the employment, top 10 sectors, the first is education services, which is 0.53%, and the second one is sports services, which contributed around 0.3%, of the total, services. Then many national and international studies have looked into importance of sports in economic development. So if you look at some of the data, like from European Commission way back in 2018, in a study that developed a sports satellite account for the EU, in 2012, sports-related GDP was 2.2% of total GDP within the EU. So this is, I'm giving a data almost 10 years back. So for the total GDP of European Union, 2.12% is from the sports-related GDP, which is again very huge, a contribution of sports in economic development. So in addition, sports sustained 5.67 million employees, equivalent to a 2.72% share in total employment. So which is again a very huge share, and if you look at, from the sports point of view. So sports and physical education, we can say, are contributing, very decently towards the economic growth of, all the countries, So sports is effective in generating employment because it is community-based. And why the reason sports is so effective? Because it is community-based and depends on human interaction, right? So there are humans involved. And as such, one policy implication is that investing in sport can be used as an economic tool to help a country reduce unemployment during a recession, which could be a valuable insight for the post-COVID-19 period. And we can see, a lot of good things have been happening way back, in India also. So every £1 spent on sport, this is a data which I get from the source, which is listed here. Every £1 spent on sport generates 1.91 pound in health and social benefits. That's great. So why not spend on the sports? This very clearly shows, so data never lies, right? And the last slide is the social return. If these are again some of the figures I'm showing for your benefit. Social return on investment in sports. If you can see, how much it is. If you look at the input. So this is again I have taken data which is not latest, but it's just a couple of years back. So the total input, if you look at, this is in UK, and 23.46 billion pounds. Okay, and this is in like in sports, in local authorities, in secondary schools, higher educations, youth sports trusts, sports participation volunteers, and so on. And this is data from the United Kingdom, and the outcome is 44.75 billion pound, UK pounds. So, and this is how the investment in sports can benefit in other sectors. Why it happens? You can see the reasons. When we talk about outcomes, you can see. So when you invest in sports, when you do physical activity, there is a reduced risk of coronary heart disease. There's a reduced risk for breast cancer. There's a reduced risk for the colon cancer. There's a reduced risk for type 2 diabetes, and definitely there are a lot of proofs for that. There's a reduced risk for dementia, and very important for anyone who is older than 50 years should do exercise to reduce the incidence of dementia. Reported improved health, reduction in crime. Of course, when you are playing sports, when you do activity, you're away from all the bad habit sides. Reduction in crime, improved education and performance, enhanced human capital. So you have a better humans, more capable humans, and then social capital also, like volunteering, and improved well-being. So this is how investment in physical education and sports, or we can say physical activity, will help in realizing the more outcomes. So it clearly shows that sports and physical activity help in economic development or economic growth of the country. So with this, I would like to just conclude my talk here, and thank you so much for giving me time and for the patience hearing. And I'm really, thankful to the VD Institute of Technology for sharing this thought. I don't know how much I was successful in delivering, but there are so many things. It is just one aspect which I just talked about. So maybe, but anyway. So if you have any questions, you have anything, you are most welcome to ask. Thank you, Dr. Umasina, once again.
Thank you, Dr. Rakesh, so much.
Very nice.
Thank you, Dr. Rakesh, so much, sir, for sharing us with valuable insights. There are some questions from the participants. So the first question is from Saima Vihar. She says, can resistance training be done during busy hours?
During busy hours. Yes, I don't know what the busy hours means, if you can more specify, but of course, resistance training can be done. You see, any exercise, resistance or aerobics can be done any time of the day. The most important things you should keep in mind that when you do any exercise, you should not eat 3 hours, you should eat at least 3 hours before the training or exercise. So your stomach should not be full when you do exercise. If your stomach is empty, of course, you can do any time of the day. As I said during my lecture also, for example, if you are writing a paper, you are doing a study, just take a break after 30 minutes, 45 minutes, take your books and use your books as a dumbbell. Or stand up and do some exercise, do some jumps. So it can be done, yes, anytime or during the busy hours.
Okay, thank you, sir. And there is this question from Murthy. His question is, as with NEP will focus on both sports and studies, how much you think it will be ensured in utilizing these sustainable development goals?
Say again.
So as the NEP 2020 will focus on both sports
NEP,
and
okay.
study. So
NEP 2020. If of course I have given some lectures on NEP 2020, but it's a long back. But as far as I remember, NEP, there's a lot of focus on physical education and sports in this new education policy in India. And of course, NEP will help in realizing all these United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And it is if you look at NEP, it is very integrated program, and lot of emphasis is given on fitness, lot of emphasis is given on yoga in NEP. So definitely it will contribute towards these goals.
Okay, and sir, this is the last question from my side. So as we have seen, especially in the third world countries like India, parents and most of our teachers as well focuses more on studies rather than sports. So how you think that these goals can be implemented in the home and in school as well, on the ground, not just written in some agendas and something, how it can utilize in real life?
Yeah, that is what, if you see, my lecture was like, especially in the education part, when I was talking about how can we develop the sports culture, in our institute. So of course, the primary focus is, on your education, but education alone is not enough. To get a quality education, you should have an all-round development of your personality, right? So if you don't do physical activity, for example, if you are an inactive person and you achieve good education levels, but your health is compromised, then how does that education matters to you, right? So whatever we do, education is not only just to have say economic prosperity. Education is for the overall prosperity of our society, overall development of the individual. So our focus should be on education and also should be on sports and physical activity. Of course, there should be a proportion. So everything there's a proportion. You cannot just devote, say, 8 hours in doing physical activity and playing sports and giving 2 hours for study, right? For example. But you cannot also not do that, okay, I will study for 8 hours and I will not do any physical activity. So you have to give equal time, to each sector in your life. So for the student does not mean only study. So there are many other aspects, it's not only sports, but there are other curricular activities also which are important for the students. So all the institutions and schools and colleges should, lay down some programs or policies which makes students more physically activity, Now, how you can do it, that depends upon, again, the management of the institution. So every institute is different. Some of them are following, some of them are not following. So you have to make a program where, like, as I said, reach to each, way. So you have to reach each student, make all the students involved in some sort of physical activity, not playing sports, not playing structured sport, but any form of a physical activity. So this needs, like a lot of brainstorming and to finalize, how we can achieve this, at our institute level.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir, for clearing all our doubts. And as there is some paucity of time, we are not taking so much questions. And once again, thank you, Dr. Rakesh, so much, sir. Your perspective on how sports can help achieve sustainable development goals is truly inspiring. Your presentation has provided us with valuable insights and perspectives that we can apply to our own lives and work. We appreciate the effort and thought that you put on in preparing this presentation. Once again, thank you, sir, for your presentation and enriching us with your presence. Now,
just give me 1 minute. Just give me one minute, because I read one question here from Tapasi Saha, and she said we are more into the mobile games. This is very important. I want to address it in 60 seconds. You see, when you do physical activity, when you are involved in sports, so any exercise, you're away from the mobile phone, right? And one of the main reasons why I do physical activity, every evening I go for running. I keep my phone in my home. So when you are involved in physical activity, you are by default away from the mobile games or mobile phone or the screen. So physical activity is very effective to, take your screen time off. So that's the best way, like when she's asking how we can do that. So play sports, play games, and you will be away from your mobile phones for a time. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So now we warmly welcome our second resource person of the day, Dr. Amit Ahuja, sir. We are honored to have Dr. Amit Ahuja, sir, with us today to share their insights and experience with our student and faculty. Dr. Ahuja is an associate professor at the University School of Education, Guru Gobind Singh, Indraprastha University, Delhi. Dr. Ahuja is a recipient of 32nd Dr. S. Radhakrishnan Memorial National Teachers Award in 2016. He obtained bachelor, master, and doctoral degree in education from Department of Education, University of Delhi. He also obtained master's degree with distinction in chemistry from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. His area of specialization are methodology of education research, education technology, cognitive psychology, science education, education and vocational guidance, and social and adult education, has widely recognized, and his contribution to the field have been instrumental in shaping the educational landscape in India. He has supervised 102 MA dissertation and 7 PhD theses. He was a member of ICT curriculum group in 2013 to work out curricula for ICT in education developed by the Central Institute of Educational Technology, NCERT, New Delhi. He has delivered video lectures for DLED programs on NIOS channel number 32, Swam Prabha, and IGNOU. He has developed e-content for School of Education, Central University of Punjab, Central for Distance and Open Learning, Jamia Millia Islamia, HRDC, Mizoram, CIET, NCERT, and NCTE. He has regularly published research papers, articles, and concept paper in national and international journal of repute. He is the editorial board of national and international peer-reviewed journals. He is a life member of Indian Association of Teachers Education, All Association for Educational Research, Global Education Research Association, Delhi State Science Teachers Forum, Teacher and Education Research Association, and so on and so forth. On behalf of our college, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Dr. Amit Ahuja, sir, and thank him for taking the time from his busy schedule to be with us today. I'm sure that this interaction with our speaker will be valuable learning lessons for all of us. With that, I invite Dr. Amit Ahuja to come forward and address our esteemed gathering. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Amit Ahuja, whose topic is Attainment of Sustainable Development Goals and Associated Challenges in Formal Education.
Thank you so much, Bushraji. First of all, confirm, am I audible?
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir, you are audible.
सभी को सादर नमस्कार. A word of thanks to chairperson of this prestigious college, Jackie ji, my younger Varuna ji, and principal of this college, Dr. Uma Sinha, whose potentials have been exercised in the achievement of the day, and worthy faculty member of this college, Mishra ji, and many others to whom I know. First of all, again, I would like to congratulate you for organizing this wonderful event on the focal theme of SDGs Sustainable Development Goal. I wish you all the best for all your future endeavors. As far as my inning is concerned, that I have been given is that I'll focus my presentation, what's going on in Indian context, what's going on in our country, in India, with respect to this SDG. Are we well aware of this concept of SDG, or merely we read in our textbooks and then we go on claiming that yes, we are adhering to this SDG? My another request to all my worthy participants is to not to worry about the feedback link. The college will definitely share you with this. It's better to focus on what the resource person is saying. That's quite more important than the feedback link. You'll get the certificate. Don't worry about this. So let me begin my presentation with this. The whole idea of my presentation is to acquaint you with the basic concept of SDG and what's going on in India, what is the latest status of SDG, and what, as a common man, we can do to attain all these SDGs and the associated challenges in our formal education system. So, just a moment. First of all, Bushraji, confirm whether it's visible. Screen is visible?
Yes, sir, visible, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, so let us, now our flight is on the active runway, we are ready for the takeoff. First of all, what do you mean by the sustainable development? You see, whatever we are doing today, but with care for our coming tomorrow, is sustainable development. If you are using Delhi Metro, rather than using some Ola, Uber, or any other cab or any other vehicle, that means you are using public transport, you are focusing on sustainable development of your city. That's a fundamental concept. So sustainable development is basically the idea how do we should live, survive together without compromising with our future needs that stand with respect to tomorrow. And it's the definition, official definition, or the first time the word was coined in the Brundtland report. It was basically commission, Brundtland Commission, that was active from year 1984 to 1987 in UN. That first of all, it coined the term the sustainable development, because there was enormous changes were taking place across the globe also with respect to climate, in oceanography, and there was quite frequent movement in space also. For example, when in the year 1984, our space person, Mr. Rakesh Sharma, landed on moon, then it threatened them also that these are the Asian countries. If they are going well ahead of this, then think about future also. So they immediately, slowly injected this term, sustainable development, but actually it was for their own sake. The only problem with all these European countries also that, first of all, they keep themselves in a safe zone. They do whatever they intend. Then when they achieve, then they declare that that should not be done so. For example, CTBT, Complete Test Ban Treaty. This was imposed on India and other Asian countries when they were well acquainted with atomic strategy. Even with respect to CTBT, no nation can conduct atomic tests, even in laboratory also. So that was complete ban. India, however, resisted and would never sign it. So there's an ideology that prevailed behind the sustainable development, but later on it blossomed in a positive manner also. And the sustainable development, as I mentioned earlier, it meets the need of the tomorrow, but without meets the need of the today, but without compromising the needs of the tomorrow. And basically, it focused on agriculture, forestry, good governance, also research, technology, education, and all other training aspects associated even with transport also. For example, if there is a ship that sails from...
Your slide is not moving, sir.
Pardon?
Your slide is not moving, sir.
Just a moment. Now it's changed.
No, sir.
Wait a moment, please.
Yes, sir. Now okay, sir. Now okay, sir.
I'm here basically. So if a ship sails from India to some European country, there is a clause nowadays when the ship arrives at the port of that European nation, you must show them the balanced crude oil that was left as residue during your journey. They calculate this much residue, that is with respect to your initial fuel volume. Then if it is appropriate, okay, matches with what is supposed to be, then they will allow you to land. Otherwise, there is heavy penalty. That means you have spilled that residual dew in the sea, and you are leading to degradation of water aquatic ecosystem. It may lead to heavy penalty in the sense like seizing of the cruise, non-billable imprisonment of those sailors, and the host country cannot claim over them. So this is also a powerful sustainable development aspect that you can't compromise with any sort of disturbance in aquatic system also. SD refers to the processes that I mentioned here. Basically, another example that I'd like to give for sustainable development is that how much and to what extent you can use the recycled material. You can use recycled resources. You can use renewable resources to meet your present needs. I say it is quite difficult, not impossible, to overcome plastic, but we can minimize the use of plastic, because it's not possible to say completely no to plastics. People will make use from here or there and they will use it, but we can minimize the use of plastic. Like another example, you see, while destroying the ecosystem or harming the environment, without disturbing or harming the environment, and then will lead to the development of tourism, is also another example of sustainable development. So these are the two examples that I have given you to acquaint yourself with this concept. Now come to the international level. At international platform, at global platform, there was a universal call to protect the planet, to end poverty, and ensure that all people live amicably, happy, wealthy, and fit life. And the 17th session of the UN that was held on 25th September 2015, initially that posited 17 goals that I will discuss, 169 targets, and 247 indicators for them. We'll discuss the deliberate one by one. And under the official agenda, transforming our world, that is by 2030 for sustainable development. Now, what are targets? Target means we should work at local level. That means things have been proposed at national level, have been proposed at global level, are practiced at national level, and are working, operational, growing, proliferating at local level. What is global? What is local? Haldiram, that you can find around yourself. If you find that Haldiram outlet in London, Singapore, that means things are global in nature. But when you find a local confectioner or local tea shop or any vendor just around yourself only, that means things are at local level. But you can explore the value of those local things also. These are not belittled than even Haldiram also, because they are working in context. So it requires that SDG to operationalize the things at local level, so that the things become specific and targeted at those people for which it intends. Indicator means these are basically the criteria that help in understanding how much the targets have been met and what is left. And the criteria of classification is that if a nation like India has a SDG index score equal to 100, that means we are achiever. For example, education. If we have SDG index score as 100, that means we are perfect achiever in the domain of education. But that index score is dependent upon certain number of things also, like gender, locality, school management, state, geographical variations, etc. These are the things that will totally, when taken into account, will determine the index score with respect to education of our country. The country is labeled as front runner if the SDG score is less than 100 but equal to or greater than 65, and the country is a performer if it is equal to or more, somewhat more than 50. But below 50, the country does not stand at all anywhere with respect to that SDG. So this is the criteria that has been developed by UN to assess ourselves, where do we stand with respect to all these SDGs. The officially, when it was proposed on 25th September 2015, it was 1/1/16, 1st January 16, that it was operationalized in a formal manner, and all the member countries assured that it's their responsibility to follow up, review, and take care of all these, and implementing the global targets in a firm manner. And the primary importance was given to reduce carbon emission. This was the primary SDG, first SDG that was to be met as early as possible. Only 3 years for that is up to 2018. It was decided that we should be able to reduce the carbon emission, because if carbon emission goes on, we will face global climate change, which right now we are facing. That means we are not able to minimize the carbon emission. That means clearly it indicates. So these are the 17 SDGs, which I think I should not read, but in a formal manner, I should say that it focuses on poverty, hunger, health, inclusion, equitable quality education. What is equitable quality education? Equitable means whosoever person is at a platform, let the things reach there at his or platform, and let him or her flourish. For example, if there is a person of agriculture background, we should not say, okay, you are from agriculture. If you join BTech, MTech, or become a civil servant, then you will flourish. You will have a lucrative life. It should not be like that. You are agriculture. You are a peasant. Okay, we'll facilitate for all of you and your community whatever it suits with respect to the development of agriculture. We'll minimize the subsidy. We'll provide you free electricity and so on, so that you flourish where you are. This is equity. So we need to promote this equitable education. Inclusive education doesn't mean it is always labeled or targeted with respect to differently abled person. No, not at all. It also means, like NEP 2020 says, an inclusive classroom is also that where you find students of different intelligence level. I always say there are 3 kinds of students in a class: above average intelligent, average intelligent, and below average intelligent. So if I'm teaching all these 3 kind of students, and I'm able to convince them, and they are with me, so that means my class is an inclusive setup. So this is also our SDG, one of the SDG. Gender equality. Merely giving them reservation won't be enough to ensure gender equality. So it's a spirit of respect, and that comes through an attitude and aptitude that is to be governed over that time, so that women empowerment is also there. I would like to cite an example. In Maharashtra, in 2011, it was found that some girls had the name Nakoshi. Nakori, that means manhus. In Hindi, it is said, ill-fated. An NGO probed this phenomena, and a survey was conducted in 20 districts of Maharashtra, like Aurangabad, Beed, many others, Parbhani, etc. And around 226 girls, women, girl children were identified that had these names, Nakoshi, Nakori. Many of them were married, they were living their life, some were in jobs, some were in school system, etc. The reason behind this naming is Nakoshi and Nakori is that the parents were expecting a male baby and she was born. So that's why she was labeled as Nakori. That means you are not wanted and you are born. This name, however, they were children, they didn't understand what does it mean. The girls carried this name up to their maturity, college life, married life, etc. But then they realized why we are Nakoshi and Nakori, why we are ill-fated. Even in the schools, the children labeled them Nakoshi madam, Nakori madam. Okay, that NGO with the help of state government visited village to village, conducted interaction with the people and parents, and they convinced them they will not name their children, and they will never let others allow to name such thing, and they were convinced with it. And also it was an oath ceremony there also in the villages, that they would have an 8th fera. In marriages, we have 7 fera, 7 circles around the holy fire. We will have another one, 8th fera, another 8th round. That would be for preventing female feticide, and at least not naming any of our girl child as Nakoshi or Nakori. Okay, the thing went on. After 5 years, a survey was to be conducted and to find out how many Nakoshi and Nakori are there. It was delayed. Then there was pandemic. And in the year 2022, last year, they conducted again survey in those areas, in those 20 districts. And unfortunately, they found 18 girls out of 226 10 years ago, now 18, who were named Nakoshi and Nakori. They again had to visit those parents, those villages, but now this time it was supported with the help of local police also to arrest those people because it was against the dignity of a woman. You are labeling her as an ill-fated just from her birth because she's a woman. So now there are some legal implications also. If parents name their girl child as Nakoshi or Nakori, they will be arrested. So with this example, I will like to say there is dire need to promote gender equality rather than naming them as ill-fated, etc. But this also comes through an attitude. What would your SDG will do? That is with respect to achieve gender equality. If people have so much mentality, we have Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao Andolan. But if we name them as Nakoshi or Nakori, then what is the use of that? So you see the operationalization of SDG is to be worked from grassroots level. With this example, I supported this. And rest of the SDGs say the sustainable management of water, sanitation, affordable, reliable, sustainable, modern energy resources, etc. These are there. Resilient infrastructure. Resilient means popping back. That means are you able to revert back into the original position? Where were you before a trauma? For example, if a person loses some near and dear, the person is upset, the person is in depression, loses his or mental balance, but he or she will have to come back, revive back, revert back, cope, and come back to the original position, say after 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, 1 year, etc. This is called the resilient power of the person. Resilient infrastructure in our scenario means the infrastructure at hill areas, in mountains, in hard areas. So build resilient infrastructure which are able to cope up with the environmental extremities so that industrialization and innovation may be promoted. Reduce inequality within and among countries. Certainly there are inequalities. Racism prevails still there. You can see like our European Unions all have free passport free movement to each other, but for our we have to go for visa and meet certain requirements also. So such inequalities are to be overcome. Cities and human settlements, inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable, that I mentioned earlier also. Sustainable consumption of different resources, and take urgent action to overcome climate changes that right now we are facing. Even in the month of May, it's not so much hot that is supposed to be, which is not fair for agriculture and health issues also. Terrestrial ecosystem are to be preserved. Justice for all need to be ensured so that people live an amicable and happy life. Global partnership of different countries to combat, for example, terrorism is a global issue nowadays. No country is beyond the beyond the approach of this evil, terrorism. So global partnership is needed to combat such evils. So SDGs also focus on that. Now again, I focus on book background. SDGs are basically a collection of global and national targets. Like how should we welcome our migrants across the border? How should we welcome asylum across the border? Because many culprits, many criminals make use of this. Many gangsters from India are escaping to other nations. So we should need to have a policy for that. Even SDGs also focus on this. So one country should support another one. So all these things should work at local level, that I already said also. So when the goals are universal, the implications must be at local level. That it must be contextual. It must suit the local person also. Local community action is also necessary because it's just like an inverted pyramid, just like an inverted triangle, where it is at a broader level and that moves at a narrow level. So local level is quite broader and national level is quite narrow, so that only then we can achieve this. However, policies and politics definitely play a significant role. So SDGs are quite crucial for our country where diversity prevails even within a state and even within an area. For example, if you go beyond just 50 kilometers, you will find a change in dialects also. So there you have to struggle with this work in the achievement of all these SDGs. So in a heterogeneous context like ours, SDGs focus on localized action with global partnership. That is how global partnership can work together at a local level. For example, in the year 1999, there was some American company that was invited India for set up an electrical plant in Maharashtra. But objection from the localites, because of objections from the localites, the company had to be in the back foot, and the company withdrew itself and left, because the localites were saying you must employ our resources, our person. The company was insisting, since it's a technical area, we'll hire the people from our nation. So all these things need to be compromised, need to be mitigated together, need to be adjusted together. So political intervention is necessary here. Only then you can work out in the achievement of SDGs. SDGs are intergovernmentally agreed set of goals. For example, like with ours, you see with which kind of neighbors we are surrounded: Pakistan, China, nowadays Bangladesh also. So how can we work together in the achievement of all these? The only need of the hour is that we need to identify our common concerns, like terrorism, as I've already said, like position of women education that need to be improved in all these countries. So how can we at intergovernmental level work together to meet the need of the today without compromising tomorrow? Goals and targets of the SDGs are decided by UN, which are quite rigid with no scope of relaxation, but changes may be done or they may be accommodated at regional level. Then after that is SDG scenario in India. NITI Aayog in India is the nodal agency for implementing this. And MOSI, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, is concerned with providing you the data or the figures for the achievement of all these, that to what extent we have achieved. So you see, it gives a statistical figure, what has been achieved and what is yet to be achieved. State level planning departments are there. Even Gram Panchayats are also concerned with this, because they have to provide the data to their to other hierarchical order also, like to state government also. For example, in the pandemic, how many people were injected with this vaccine? The data was provided by the Gram Panchayats to the state nodal agency, and then it moved upward. Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act is implemented with respect to this SDGs. So it provides a guaranteed jobs to unskilled laborers and improve their living standards. National Food Security Act means no person will survive without any food. That means government will ensure that a minimum food is provided to all with quality food. Government of India also aims to make India open defecation free, because in Maharashtra there was a moment at mass level that free defecation won't take place. There was Swachh Bharat Abhiyan was launched there in the year 2014. Localizing SDGs India further is that by year 2022 we will have 175 gigawatt of energy and power, and there won't be a power cut even for a second in cities and metro cities. Please remember, cities and metro cities. What about rural area? We are silent about that. And Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, AMRUT, is also there, that will harness the schemes for improving the infrastructural aspects. Even at your border road organization is working on that. You can find significant changes in highways also. They are under that one. So how to transform our urban areas, but ultimately rural areas also. So this Heritage City Development and Augmentation Yojana Hriday is working on the development of certain heritage cities, like the Karnataka, especially in the state of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, they are working in that. Like Hampi, they are working in that. India has expressed its intent to combat climate changes by ratifying the Paris Agreement. That was another initiative from India behind this, besides this SDG, to combat the climate changes, because in our country we are facing a tremendous, spectacular, climate change over the years. Now, what is the difference between SDG and MDGs? Millennium Development Goals are concerned for developing countries only, but Sustainable Development Goals are concerned of developed as well as developing countries also, because they ultimately focus on meeting the universal needs. Then attainment of SDGs, three things are to be taken into account: economic growth, social inclusion, and environmental protection. That is, Don't compromise with the economic growth of your country. Focus on social inclusion. That means all sectors of the society must be included into it, but not at the cost of your environment in which you are surviving. Latest status is that in the year during pandemic on 7 July 2020, first Sustainable Development Goal report was released during COVID-19 pandemic also, and it was found that improvements were noticed in improving maternal and child health, especially in rural areas, but still access to health aspects is needed even in hard areas. Expanding access to electricity, increasing women representation in government was satisfactorily measured, and 71 million people were pushed back into extreme poverty in 2020. This report was published after 22 years. So still a long way is to be covered now. That means 1.6 million workers across the globe were either left unemployed or underemployment because of this pandemic. Women and children slum were the most affected one, and 90% of the people were out of the school. School closure led to the situation that 90% of the students worldwide were out of the school. So at a local level, now at our part, what we should do in the attainment of this SDGs, first of all, donate what you don't use. You see the things around you at your home. If it is not in use, kindly donate this to the person who is more needy than you. Waste less. For example, in marriages and function, you can see how much we waste the things. So waste less. Get yourself and family vaccinated, especially for all kinds of diseases. There is no harm in accepting, even for going for your medical examination, blood testing, even for 6 months also, so that you are not growing any disease within you. Help educate children in your community. So at least motivate the parents to admit their children in the school so that they can be educated in coming time. That's a essential component of SDG. Empower girls, women around you, promote their safety, security, and hence equality. Avoid wasting water because it is speculated that third world war will be for water. Use energy efficient appliances. That is an electronic device that uses less energy but glows more. Create job opportunities. That is entrepreneurship is expected nowadays. Don't be a job seeker, be a job provider. Support the marginalized and disadvantaged around you, not only through education, but through other aspects also. Public transport, that I initially said, kindly, if you use metro, that means we are promoting SDGs. So recycle as far as possible, as much as you can. Avoid using, I won't say avoid using plastic, I will say minimize using plastic because complete avoidance is quite difficult. Plant the trees around you as far as possible and do whatever you can do to minimize global warming. But the barriers in the attainment of SDGs are the political instabilities. Like in Pakistan, you can see no government complete even their 5 years. So if there is another government, there will be different agenda. So political instability around the country like ours influences our policies also. Poverty, that is no end to this because we don't have any policy for vehicle policy. You can purchase n number of vehicles and parking of those vehicles will be your headache. So there is huge congestion on road. We don't have population policy. Nowadays, we are number 1 in population and then we'll claim it's high unemployment, etc. So there is need to have a population policy. There is need to have a transport vehicle policy also so that in a nutshell, over the period, we'll minimize this poverty. Unemployment, again, since we don't have any population policy, so to how many people will government will go on providing the employment. So there is a restriction to all the things. So there must be a restriction to population also. Building institutions that follow strong governance. That means there should be CCTV, there should be transparency also, and there must be a responsive governance also. That means if you say file RTI, so you should get your response within time limit also, within a specified time limit also. So there is responsive governance. So there is no need of strong governance or good governance. The governance should be responsive also. Kindly take care of climate because without climate, without environment, we are not able to survive. So we should do all our best to minimize this climate change. Then other barriers are degrading air quality index. We are breathing in a poor atmosphere. Parali is our frequent problem that we encounter every year. So there is need to minimize this to lower the AQI. Rampant environmental degradation should be minimized. biodiversity should be maintained. These are the barriers in the attainment of SDGs. Urbanization is taking place in the Himalayas when everybody is rushing to Himalayas and mountains or through own vehicles. So you can understand the congestion level at those places also. Lack of waste management. We don't have any proper waste management treatment. Depletion of resources is going on because huge population is going on. So where will they ultimately survive? So they will definitely explore land, air, water wherever possible, and hence they will disturb the ecosystem of the country and ultimately to water scarcity. So what are the challenges? Still what is left? Is our system inclusive enough? Are we promoting lifelong learning? Are we providing equitable education? If these three question marks are well answered, that means we are able to meet the challenges associated with the SDGs in our formal education system, otherwise not. So this was my submission on this SDG, what's going in our country, what is taking place here, etc. This was all about this. If any question is there, then I welcome. I did my best to adhere to timings that was given to me. Questions are
Thank you, Dr. Amita Huja, sir, for your valuable insights. Actually, I have a question. Am I audible?
नहीं audible तो नहीं है आप अभी.
Yes, you are audible. Thank you, sir, Amita Huja, sir, for your nice session, sir. Very informative session for sustainable
So,
development.
Dr. Amita Huja, sir, my question for you is, as China is a global power, emerging global power, so will it be a threat or a challenge for the South Asian region where India's lie as a challenge in fulfilling these or utilizing these sustainable development goals?
Certainly, there is a challenge to meet our powerful Padosi, our powerful neighbor, because Chinese ideology says whatever is available on this earth, it is for the sake of humans. So if they go for fishing in the sea beside rocks, whatever they get, they bring into this, to their harbors and shores, etc. So if they go on harnessing, exploiting the environment just for their own sake. So we have two issues. One is international platform, another is China. So standing with such a powerful neighbor is definitely challenging one also, because unfortunately or fortunately, they are quite ahead of us in many things like technology and resources also. So we need to meet with them. Yes, it is.
So, sir, how can we meet these challenges or overcome these challenges?
First of all, I said we need to have policies, because China had policies also. Now they have relaxed their population policy. We should also have a population policy. Strict legal action should be taken. If there are 7 or 8 children in a family, to how much people will go on, government will go on giving them relaxation or any this RT Act? To what extent RT Act can make? You see the congestion on the road. We have roads, but we have a road speed limit also. We can't drive beyond 50 or 60 kilometers. So we don't reach that at the destination timely. But in Europe, you can see there are roads. People rush their vehicles at the speed of 120 and they enjoy the life, because we don't have vehicle policy. They have the vehicle policy. So to face a powerful neighbor like China, we must have policies on aspects. Otherwise, we will collapse over that.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you, sir, for clearing the doubt. And thank you so much, sir, for your illuminating discourse on the attainment of sustainable development goals and the associated challenges in formal education has left an indelible impact on us all. Thank you for your inspiring and equipping us with the knowledge and motivation to work towards a sustainable and inclusive future through education. Now, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Anshi Chandra ma'am, an assistant professor at VARUN DHAKA Institute of Technology, who will be giving a vote of thanks for this international seminar.
Thank you, Bushra. Good evening, everyone. Today, I feel incredibly honored and privileged to extend a vote of thanks to our resource persons, Dr. Rakesh Tomar and Dr. Amita Huja. Words would fall short of describing how much knowledge we could derive from this conference. A wide round of applause and thanks to all the management team and VDIT who made the event a memorable one. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all of you present here for making time with us today and helping us to make this event a grand success. Thank you.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Bushra.
Okay.
Now audible you are.
Thank you, Anshi Chandraram, for your wonderful words of appreciation and gratitude. We pray for your blessings with all humility. To make this country a better place and evoke feeling of patriotism and to remind ourselves of the nation's glory, I request you all to stand up in respect to our national anthem. I request all the participants to please switch on their respective cameras.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Very special thanks to everyone.
Kindly please turn off your mic. So, dear attendees, I request you all to please turn off your mics. Thank you. So, now we have reached the end of this wonderful event, and I hope you have all enjoyed yourself as much as we have. It has been an incredible experience for me to serve you as your anchor for this event, and I would like to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to you all. Firstly, I would like to thank our distinguished guests, Dr. Rakesh Tomar sir and Dr. Amit Ahuja sir, for gracing this occasion with their presence and sharing their valuable insights with us. Their presence had made this event all the more special, and we are honored to have had this opportunity to learn from you. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all of you, our wonderful audience. Your enthusiasm, energy, and engagement have made this event truly unforgettable. Your presence here tonight is a testament to our commitment to making a positive impact in our community, and we are humbled by your support. As we bring this event to a close, I encourage you all to take the insights and ideas that you've gained here tonight and apply them in your own lives. Let us continue to work together towards a brighter future for all. A wide round of applause and thanks to all the participants who made this event a memorable one. Finally, I would like to thank all of you present here for making the time to be with us today and helping us to make this event a grand success. Thank you once again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
All the
so
best.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you. All the best to all.
Good afternoon all. This is VARUN DHAKA,
Good afternoon.
and I would like to say very special thanks to Mr. Jagishan, Chairman of VDIT, Dr. Ramesh Thomas sir,
Dr. Amit Ahuja sir, my elder brother, and my faculty principal, Dr. Sumasina, Dr. Mishra, and all the participants. This is a very big platform. Dr. Amit Ahuja sir discussed a very big and important things with us. It's a grateful things and memorable to us. Thanks for cooperating and blessing us. So sincerely, brother.
Dear participants, please fill the feedback form that is there in the chat box before leaving the meeting. After filling this feedback form, you all can leave the meeting.
Ma'am, just now I have filled up the form. So can you please tell me when will I receive the certificate?
Sir, all will receive the certificate in 2 or 3 days, sir. You can check the seminar name in that OCD, then you can get in 2 or 3 days, sir.
Okay.
खत्म.
Anji, good evening to all. Hello, Ma.